Just when looking at you open up my big mountain, what do I say? Them can never love you my way.
So, you're excited to start or get back to uni, and then, bam, the pandemic happens, and we're all pretty much forced to learn online. Now, it's a very different sphere of learning, doing everything from your bedroom or your home office or your lounge room, whatever it is. And a lot of people aren't used to it, but there's a lot of people in this time who have really, really struggled, and a lot of people who have done really well. So, I'm going to share with you today the top 5 things that HD students don't want you to know about succeeding in online uni. So bear with me, because this is going to start off sounding kind of obvious and you'll be like, oh yeah, I've heard that before, but I'm actually going to get into a lot more depth and challenge you with some things you probably never really thought about before, and especially with number 5. Okay, so let's go. So number 1 is start ahead. Now, I literally made this mistake myself, and it's something that I did with school and especially with VCE, but if I had implemented it into uni, then it would have made my life so much easier. So I'm going to give you an example here, right? So for example, chemistry, we have quizzes due at 9 a.m. every Monday morning. So for example, the quiz for the whole of week 1's content was due 9 a.m. Monday of week 1. So I didn't realize that I should have started ahead. So basically, I was playing catch up the whole time. So I was doing each week's quiz in 2 hours just before it was due, waking up early. And the thing is, this is good because it made me really productive, but at the same time, because it was early, my brain wasn't fully in it. It would have taken longer to process, and sometimes I didn't even get to complete both my re-attempts, because you get 2 attempts at the quiz. I didn't get to complete both of them because I just ran out of time. And so, what I'm going to implement into the next semester is actually starting all of my content the week before. And I've been told that this is what you're supposed to do anyway. So, if you start and you just preempt what's coming ahead, start a week early, do all your content then, and then when you're completing the assessments for that week, you're going to be on top of it and you're already going to know what you've done, and you can just quickly revise it. So number 2 is find a routine. So it really took me quite a long time to settle into a routine, honestly. And this is because I was really just getting used to what uni was even like, and especially being at home, it was quite different to school I had done in the past. So I had to figure out, how it would blend into my life as well, because I think especially doing things online, it really felt like all the different aspects of my life were kind of just merged together, and it was really hard to separate and create those boundaries. I had to learn how to say, okay, I'm going to stop now, or I'm going to let myself go a bit longer this time because I just need to, So, and then things like taking time out of the day, in the middle of the day, to exercise, something like that. It was a way of that our whole family was able to build in routine together. And so while setting boundaries and finding and settling into a routine was difficult at first, it really helped me to enjoy the process, because then I knew, once I got used to it all, I was thinking, okay, I'm really excited actually for this that I know is coming up. This class is going to be on this afternoon or tomorrow. And yeah, it just helped me to enjoy the process and just knowing what everything was going on, and to be able to stay more consistent. Which leads us on to number 3, which is be consistent. So literally, just do the work. Now, I don't want to take away from other people's struggles, because I know that it is quite a different environment that everyone has to learn into each other, and we all have different mental health states that we're in, different family situations, all that type of thing. So I want to be empathetic towards that, but literally, it's so important to just do the work even when you don't feel like it. It's so easy when you're in this space to just think, okay, I'm just going to sleep in until midday because nothing's forcing me to get out of bed, or I'm just going to watch Netflix all day, or oh, I'm starting my day on scrolling social media, or I'm just getting distracted by it, I'm just going to keep going. You know, it just leads, it's kind of a spiral, right? And the thing with these spirals is that if you're not consistent during the semester, which you've probably heard before, if you're not consistent during the semester, it literally spirals downwards and you just get more and more behind, and then you don't feel like you can put the work into it the next week because you're like, oh, I'm already behind, how am I ever going to catch up? And you literally, it's even harder to pick yourself up and to get everything done and catch up where you were. So then this means when you get to exam time, you're so stressed and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much work to do. I have so much to study for. I don't even know what I just learned in the past 12 weeks, right? And so being able to be consistent throughout the whole semester for me, it really just meant that when I got to exam time, I literally didn't feel stressed at all. I was literally telling people, I feel like I should be more stressed. But no, it's because I was consistent the whole term. I had learned everything. It was all there in my head. I just had to revise it all and make all those connections between things, because I still felt like I needed to do a lot of work. But I knew that I had done the work and I was understanding the concepts. I just needed to be able to connect it all together and to really make sure I knew how to answer questions. So yeah, and now it seems easy for me to say just do the work or just be productive or whatever, but bear with me, we are going to get there with specific strategies of how to do this, because as I mentioned, I know that a lot of people are just not in the best place mentally or environmentally to be consistent and to do the hard work. So I am going to give you some practical strategies because I think that's really important. I can't just tell you to do something but not actually show you how to do it. So I am going to get to those practical strategies, stick with me. But honestly, for example, I just want to give you some examples. So I actually, as a new student, and especially because it was online and I had never done this before, I just found it difficult to keep track of what was going on because there was this increased friction of communication. So it was a bit harder for them to communicate what was needed from us, and it was also, you know, I just wasn't used to being on top of knowing everything that needs to be due and when. So basically I missed out on submitting a few tasks that were due at a certain time, and just because I didn't realize that they were even there, or I didn't realize when they were due. So, you know, this was really frustrating to me, and I literally, as perfectionist mindset, I was like, no, why did I do this? But honestly, I am actually so grateful because I was able to learn from some friends I had met, you know, on our online classes. And I was talking to a girl about this, and she said to me that she just started creating a list of everything that's due. So once you start to find your routine and find your schedule, you're able to plan what's ahead. I would recommend doing this as soon as possible, literally. So it took me a while because it took me a while to find my routine. It took me a while to figure out what was actually due consistently each week. But if you can be smarter than me, learn from me, and find out from the very start what is going to be due consistently each week and when, then you can build your schedule around that and you can actually be on top of it and know what you have to have due. Anyway, so she said to create a list, right, of everything that's due. So bam. So what you can do is literally ignore my random notes. You can create a table and have your days of the week there. And then next to each day, you can have your subject. So you can have, you know, chemistry, statistics, biology, blah, blah, blah. And then task, what is the task? It's a quiz, it's a tutorial, it's a lab report, it's a workshop, it's an assignment. And then you can have each of your weeks, going across. So this is the week of 4th to 10th of May. And then, so once you're in that week, you can just see what is due on Monday. And then once you do that task, you can tick it off, right? So once you're ticking these things off as you go, you don't have to be always worrying about, oh, wait, do I have something due today? Do I have it due tomorrow? Have I done this yet? Do I still need to do it? You know, because literally I would spend so much time just going back through all of my units on Moodle and being like, and going into every link and just to check whether I've done something, whatever. But if you have this list and you tick it off once you've done it, you just know, you can be 100% confident that you've done it. So that is a really good way to stay on top of, sorry, I'm getting distracted. That is a really good way to stay on track with everything and just be confident in knowing that you are on track with everything. So that's just a way to help you with consistency. And so that's for the things that you have due every week. And then obviously you're going to have separate major assignments that are only due once off or whatever. As soon as you get the dates for those, write it in your diary, write it in your calendar. Then you know they're coming up and you can see that they're coming up and plan accordingly to do a bit every day or whatever to work towards it. So that's another thing with one of my assignments. I didn't break it up into chunks and do it consistently every time, so I literally was doing the whole thing in the morning that it was due. And would not recommend, I still did okay with it, but wouldn't recommend. If you know the date when something's due, plan accordingly. When possible, break it up so that you can do a little bit each day or every few days. So those are just a few tips for consistency, but honestly, be consistent is such a big hack to success, honestly. And I can't emphasize it enough. So, how can we be in the right state of mind even if we have an uncomfortable or unideal environment to study in? Number 4, build your mental, physical, and spiritual strength. So I don't mean just be strong, I mean build it up, right? There are things we can do to build our mental strength, to build our physical strength, to build our spiritual strength. It doesn't just come naturally to people. Well, to an extent it may. But people aren't just born with all this strength, right? They aren't just born being happy all the time. They aren't just born being super healthy, right? I'm gonna turn this phone on silent. Anyway, so yeah, it requires us to actually put in the work to build ourselves. But once we do, you know, it's literally a foundation that we can do everything out of, right? So, for example, if we have a weak mental state, if we have a weak physical state, if we have a weak spiritual state, you know, everything is going to be that much harder. We're going to literally, again, it's another spiral, right? If you're strong, then everything else just comes naturally, and it may still be hard work, but it comes easy because you're just in this good state, right? But if you're in a bad state with all those 3 things, and they're all interconnected, right? So then everything is going to feel like it's such a big burden, and like it takes everything in you to do. So honestly, even these things are all interconnected, and they're your ultimate keys to success, okay? Again, it's something I can't stress enough. So, for example, how can you build your physical strength? And this is actually going to affect your mental strength as well. So number 1, nutrition. I'm a really big advocate for health, if you didn't already know that. But things like getting whole foods in, getting the majority of your food from whole foods, you know, it's going to give you a slower and more consistent, again, consistency, release of energy throughout the day. It's going to keep you full throughout the day, and whole foods are going to give you the fiber for your gut bacteria to thrive. And you know, there's a lot in gut bacteria, but if your gut bacteria microbiome is out of balance, then your whole body is going to be out of balance, right? So you need to be feeding your gut bacteria with fiber through whole foods, and there's just so much more I could say about that. I'm going to leave it there. Don't skip meals. This is something that is really easy for those of us who are maybe more on the high achieving end, that, you know, just get stuck in our work, right? Or just want to get onto work if we woke up late or something. But it's so important not to skip meals, because then that again is something that will throw you out of balance for the whole day. And then hydration, so important to be hydrated. If I don't drink enough water, I'm still not the best at this, to be honest. But if I don't drink enough water, then I get sleepy and tired, and that sucks. So, you know, even though it sometimes feels like a chore to drink water, if you do it, you'll actually be better off. And supplements, they're just another thing in helping you to fill in the gaps where you may need it, but not going to go into that. Another example, exercise. Break up the day with exercise, or you might want to do it at the end of the day once you've gotten all your work done. And our family actually got into a habit of stopping whatever we're doing 12 p.m. every day, doing our workout on our TV. And honestly, that has been something that has just been able to help my productivity and just keep me sane, because obviously there's things like it's using up your cortisol if you're a bit stressed. It's releasing serotonin in your brain, which is going to keep you happy and more energized. And was it dopamine? I don't know. Serotonin from food, dopamine from exercise. Anyway, so yeah, it's just, and it was just a way to kind of recharge in the middle of the day when you might start to feel sleepy again. Because, circadian rhythms and midway through the days when you start to get sleepy again, I'm not going to go into it, but yeah. Anyway, so, and that's just a really great way to keep healthy, and again, to build your physical and mental strength. And another example, set time aside for personal development. Now, okay, this is another hack, I'm telling you, another hack. Personal development is everything for success, because, because the thing is, things in life are always going to come and attack us, but if we don't know how to handle it and manage that, and then they're actually going to really affect us. And I'm not saying that we'll never be affected by things, but if we have a personal development lifestyle, then we're able to reflect on the things that come at us, the things that we get annoyed about or stress us or literally harm us, and we can think, okay, we can learn strategies for how to deal with it, but also to be self-aware and reflect on how those things have affected us. And then by understanding how they've affected us, we can know how to deal with it and how to really process it and bounce back from that. So personal development might be things like self-reflection and journaling, which is kind of what I just mentioned. So journaling is a really great way to get all your thoughts out. When so much happens, everything gets caught up in our head, and then we just start thinking. But if we get it down on the page, we're able to actually process it and just release it. So that's a really good way of personal development. Also, mentorship. Mentorship is massive. Having people that have already gone before us, achieved what we want to achieve, and learn all those hard lessons can actually just be a really great way to guide us, to help us to deal with those things that come at us, but also to avoid some of the mistakes they've avoided, or just to know how to deal with things, to know how to go about managing something. It's honestly such a time saver because having a mentor, because they're literally just there to guide you and grow you. And then books and podcasts, that's another really key thing. Books and podcasts is a way to continually grow ourselves and our mind. It's all about helping us to have that mindset shift as well, because a lot of the time mindset is everything. Podcasts, listening to encouraging things and positive things is massive. Literally what we take in through the content we consume shapes who we are, honestly. So when we listen, so things may not get easier for us in life necessarily as time goes, but by constantly feeding our minds with positivity and things that are showing the success of people that have done it before, and that we can do it too, honestly, that is something that builds our inner strength, because that positivity is reinforcing that ability that we have within us and that agency to be able to act on it. And it's just something that really does build your inner strength. Another thing, community and counselling. So this is massive. Again, things are always going to come at us. So we really need to have community to be able to do life together and to, again, be in a positive state of mind. So this might be through church, it might be through other community groups, it might be just uni friends, it might be work friends, whatever. And then counselling as well. Again, that's kind of like the mentorship thing, but counselling I think is a bit more personal, and just a way to, in the moment, find ways to, relieve what is really building up inside of us. And so counselling might happen through prayer or through your reading your Bible. It might happen through, you know, a psychologist or a psychiatrist. But yeah, just having a counsellor, whether that's within you or whether that's external, it makes such a massive difference, I'm telling you. Because honestly, there's so many things that in my head I'm like, oh my gosh, this sucks, whatever, just literally. But having that counselor is able to really help me to deal with that just straight away, and having a counselor helps me to find peace. It, you know, through my faith, it helps me to find peace. It helps me to find a new perspective on things, and that literally having a new perspective on things literally changes everything. So all these things, it might not seem directly related to being successful in uni, but honestly, these are all the different factors that make you a successful student. And once you can master them, it's going to change your life. So building your mental, physical, and spiritual strength is honestly, it's an active thing. We have to do things to build our mental, physical, and spiritual strength, right? But honestly, the little bit of work we put into building ourselves up, you know, it can stay there for time. It's not like we're starting from square one every day. It compounds. It's a compound effect. But yeah, once we build our mental, physical, and spiritual strength, literally we're in such a strong position to be able to learn, to be able to study, to be able to engage with what we're doing, and that literally just sets us up for learning and for study success. Honestly, seriously, this is one of the biggest things. Okay, number 5, which I want to say is probably the most directly biggest key to success that HD students don't want you to know is love what you're learning. Now, this can be taken in different ways, because I know, and it sounds kind of basic again, but it's really profound. I'm telling you that. Think about those times when you feel really unmotivated, when you feel like everything is such a burden and a struggle to do, right? Think about, do you actually enjoy what you're learning? Do you actually care about it? Because if you don't, then why are you doing it? Seriously, why are you doing it? There should be purpose and intent behind everything we do, or at least almost everything we do in life, right? So, you know, I think we need to learn to, this is again a self-reflection thing. We need to be able to question why we do what we do. And because if we know our why, then we have drive. We have drive. Because motivation is fleeting, right? And you've probably heard this before. Motivation is fleeting. But drive is something that is it's literally in us, and it literally drives us towards our goals and towards what we want. And so for me, my course at first, I thought it was going to be harder than it has been, in the sense that because it's a pathway course for me, that's my why. My why is knowing where it's taking me. But I didn't think I was going to love every moment of what I was learning, because I was like, oh, it's not exactly what I want to do. It's just basic foundations, blah, blah, blah. But I actually, because I had that why in me, and because I had a mindset of wanting to make the most of it, and just because I found myself genuinely enjoying it, I actually loved it. And then because I loved it, I had so much energy and enthusiasm to put into it and to be consistent. And so this is what helped me with consistency, because I loved it. I was like, I want to learn. I want to be doing this. Okay, especially in uni, you're there because you've literally chosen to be there. You chose to do university. You chose the exact course that you're doing. Okay, maybe if your parents kind of forced you into it, that's a bit different. But technically you could still choose anyway. Anyway, you didn't just choose to be at uni. You chose the course you're doing. And you didn't just choose that. You chose the units that you're doing too. I know some courses it's not as flexible, but to an extent you chose the units too. And to an extent you didn't also necessarily know exactly what it's going to be about, so it might be different to what you expected. But still, I'm not saying you're going to love every single aspect. There were definitely some things, especially at the start, I found a bit boring, but as I got into it, honestly, I really loved it. And so there's always going to be hard work that feels like you're just grinding it out, right? But when you're truly interested in your course and you have purpose behind it, you discover that inner drive that literally drives you to turn up, to listen, and to do the work. Motivation is not something you should be striving to find, but it's something that should come as a result of passion. I'm telling you, uni is easy when you want to be there and when you love what you're doing. This is ultimate hack 101, okay? So I just want to challenge you today. We're just gonna get a bit serious here. If you don't love what you're doing in the scheme of things, have you thought about why not? Have you thought about why you're in that course in the first place? And I just want to challenge you. If you know with everything in you that you are where you're supposed to be, then awesome. And if you're still struggling in that place, then try and implement some of these other 4 strategies that I've given you. And try and find that love for learning again. You know, it shouldn't be something that needs to be forced. If you know your why, if you have the right mindset, you'll be able to love what you're doing, and that's what's going to drive you towards success. But if you don't feel with everything in you that you are where you're meant to be, then maybe you need to consider where your life is going and what you really want to do with your life. Because we all have a limited amount of time. And I want to get to the end of my life and know that I made the most of it and that I didn't have any regrets. So yeah, again, to tie everything together, I've given you some 5 strategies. Start ahead, find a routine, be consistent, build your mental, physical, and spiritual strength, and love what you're doing. If you can master these 5 habits, then you're going to be set up to succeed in uni. And I think we also need to define what success is. Success isn't necessarily a specific grade. Success isn't necessarily a specific amount of income. It's not necessarily specific things that we can get in life. So think about what success means to you. And you know, for my own definition of success, these are really the 5 key things that have helped me to achieve success in my life.
Just one looking at you, open up my eyes, and I'll stay with you forever all the time. And I'm stepping out to leave it all behind. I'm confident your love will be my sight.